you got to have the wheel wide open. And you got to come off easy. So since I got it centered, I'm going to open up the clay now. So all you do is take your fingers and you go down in the middle. And you go down. You don't want to go all the way through. If you go all the way through, you hit the back, then your piece got a hole in it. And clay has a memory. So if you do something wrong, it's going to show up. In order to see how deep your your clay is to the back, you take a pin needle and you put your finger on it and you stick it down in the clay. So the bottom of my clay is that deep. So I want to take it down a little bit more.
Did that make a pinhole in the bottom?
Yeah, but it'll close. So you check it again. So it's about that deep now. So that'd be good. So when I trim the bottom, I'll have clay to trim off. So now we're going to open the clay up. So you put your fingers in all the way to the bottom. You know, don't go through the clay, but where you pushed it down. And then you just start pulling.
How are you working that wheel?
With
That's
pedals.
Somebody who knows how to do it does it. It's so easy.
So it'll get a little wobbly as you're pulling, and I'll show you how you take that out. And you want to try to keep it dry because you don't want it too wet. But it has to be wet enough where you slide so you constantly cleaning out. So now I'm going to start pulling up.
How many years have you been doing this?
Well, I took pottery in 2009. I had to have an art because I was going to nursing school. I'm actually a nurse. And when I went and I did it, I fell in love with it. I came home and told Todd, my husband, I said, you know, I think I'm going to just do pottery. He said, no, because see, I was in clinicals. I said, no, we done went too far with this. So I graduated from nursing with my RN, and I worked at different places. I did psych nursing, med-surg, and then I got sick. I got diagnosed with dysautonomia, which is failure of the autonomic nervous system. And they told me that I would never work again. And then I kind of got depressed. You know, when you work so hard for something, it just gets ripped out. So Todd got me into gardening. He built me a little temporary greenhouse. And he said, because I was just sitting in the house, I wouldn't even get out. He said, I built you a greenhouse. He said, you going to go out there? I said, you know I can't take care of nothing. He said, okay, well just let it die then, don't worry about it. So he knew I wasn't going to let them plants die. So I started out in the greenhouse. And then I told him, I said, you know, I bet you I can do pottery. Because if I do pottery, you know, I can do it as I, you know, if I'm well. And so he bought me a wheel and a kiln, and I've been doing pottery. So I hadn't done it in probably about 10 years since school. But it's like riding a bike. Once you learn, you get on it.
So did you sell pottery?
Yes, ma'am.
She has some right up there if you want to look. How do you make it the colors?
Glaze.
That's after this
Yes.
process? So all the clay is that color?
You can get white clay or red clay. I have some different kinds over there. I'll pull them out and show you. That shop the pottery shop in Baton Rouge, they had sent me some clay to try from their shop, instead of ordering from Minnesota.
It is.
So what I'll do is you can trim the top, take the pen needle and hold it and take off a little bit of the top if you want to. But I'll leave this for when it dries, then I'll sand the top and make it smoother. And then so to put a foot on it, they've got wonderful tools that you can buy. And all it is just a little wood tool with a little curve on it. And so what you do is you set it on the back, flat, and then you go into the clay.
Wow.
And it makes a foot. So that's a bowl.
Wow.
And then you just cut it off. This is a wire. You gotta hold it. Oh, shoot, did I cut it?
Can you imagine what we could do with that?
And that's it. So now I'll set it up to dry.
That is awesome.
And then when I go to dry it, what I do is I'll take it and that little thing behind you with the plastic is called a dry box, because if clay dries too fast, it cracks. And so once it cracks and it's like a little bit bone dry, it's hard to repair. So with a dry box, you can put it in there and then you let it, I'll close it up and I'll leave it in there for a couple of days. And then I open up the dry box and let it stay sitting there until it dries. But after the first day, after it's been in there one day, I go in and I take it off the back and I flip it upside down. Because you got more clay on the bottom than you do the top, and you don't want it to dry.
That is so neat.
So quick.
I know, that was quick.
It's not her first time.
No.
So that's this.
And you said you were going to give classes?
Yes, if y'all want to do a pottery class, I can do a hand building class, which, so the first day you would make the piece, and then I would have to dry it, and then maybe the next week you come back, and then I'll fire it. I'll do all the firing. And then when you come back, then you glaze it. I'll show you how to glaze it. You can either paint the glaze on with a brush, or you can dip it. So I have both. And then once you glaze it, then it goes in the kiln again, and then I'll fire it, and then it'll be ready the next day. So, are y'all ready for Mr. Brown to speak to us?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, they're so excited.
Yes, we are.
I appreciate Gareth asking me. Now, she tricked me into doing this. I want you to know. I deer hunt out here back behind and on their place, and I often come out here. The last day of deer season, I was bow hunting, and when I came out, she said, "I've been waiting on you." It was probably 2 o'clock. I said, "Well," she said, "Would you help me with something?" I said, "Well, sure. What you need?" I thought she wanted me to pick up something, some manly thing. But no, she wanted me to do this today. And I said, sure. And but this is a time of year when I begin to plan, begin to think about what I'm going to plant in my garden, flowers I'm going to plant. And Judy will tell you this is the truth. I often sit in my easy chair, and while other people may be doing something else, I'm looking at videos or I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in my garden. And whether it's vegetables or flowers, you need to plan and be thinking about that. What if you're going to grow something? I'm assuming this is a garden club. Am I at the right place? Okay. See some heads nodding, but I'm not sure. old Chinese proverb that I'm sure you're all familiar with. It says if you give a man a fish, you feed him for the day. He has a good meal. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And I want to change this today a little bit to meet our needs, to apply to this meeting. And the way I put it is, if you give a lady some flowers, she'll make a beautiful arrangement, which I give to Judy all the time. She'll put them on the table, and you'll enjoy them for a day. But if you teach a lady to grow flowers or vegetables or those kind of things, she'll have a beautiful yard for her family, her neighbors to enjoy, and also she'll have plenty of flowers to put on her table for an arrangement. How many of you do arrangements for your table? You take flowers in and you arrange them. And but if you give a lady some vegetables, she'll make a good soup. How many of you like soup? I like soup. I like a vegetable soup. And but if you give her vegetables, she'll make a good soup. But if you teach a lady or a man how to grow vegetables, she's going to fix great soups for a lifetime. And also she will be able to fix delicious things for her neighbors and her family. And all of her neighbors will enjoy the things that she grows, and she'll do it for a lifetime. So I want to talk about a few things. I know that it's important that we garden. In the day and age in which we live, you better start thinking about planting something, whether it's a vegetable or a flower, because I've already experienced it. Sometimes it's hard to get things. One of them is that soil is the key. Whether you're planting vegetables or if you're planting flowers, you just can't plant them in anything and expect beautiful plants, beautiful flowers. You've got to do something. What I do in my garden, I did it this year. I put compost in my garden, and you have to put some addition in to make that soil, where that will produce a beautiful plant. I came out to Garrett, and this is how I got obligated to this. I got goat, stuff, manure out of her barn back here, and using in my garden. Best place is a nursery. They really put out good compost. You can go back Walmart, so-so, Lowe's, so-so, those kind of places. I don't know what you're going to get, but in the nurseries they raise plants, and 9 chances out of 10 you're going to get good compost that you can use in your garden. Another thing that you need to consider is an adequate and convenient water supply. You have a small amount of water that you need to do. Maybe you just need a watering can. However, in my gardening, I have a big garden, so I have to make sure that I have water to use. Now, I will say this, probably the best water that you can use is rainwater. I mean, you don't think about it, it's good for planting, just rainwater. The next thing is well water. Gareth she's so lucky she's got a well, and you may have a well to have access to it, but it's a good source of water. You have to consider that. Now, if you get water from a water well service, say City of Oakdale, we can't hardly drink it sometimes. Do you know why? It's got all these chemicals in it. Yeah, it smells. And we're very near the tank. So sometimes we know when they put it in there because it's strong. Right? You turn the faucet on. Well, they're putting chemicals in there, and it has to be. They have to treat the water. I don't, but it's just something that's necessary for you to get the water you can drink. However, it's not good for your plants. Think about it. Whatever they put in there, you're going to go out there and you're going to water your garden with that, and you got all these chemicals that are going in there. And over a period of years, what happens to the chemicals? They stay in there.
I enjoyed talking to y'all today, and I hope I've said something. You might have some questions.
Everything. Thank you.